May the words of my mouth be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. So, did you miss me? I realize it's only been 2 weeks, but you know. I want to thank Denise and Rick for doing a fabulous job while I was away. I watched both of their sermons, and I was worried. You know, I could do that good if I only had to preach once a year. So, there was a construction site, and there was a whole lot of workers who worked on the construction site, but they had this one new guy who was really young and just really full of himself. He was a big, strong guy, and he got to brag, and he could do better than anybody else. In fact, he could do things that other people couldn't do at all. So the workers kind of took this for a while, and then they got to the point that they were really, really tired of it. One of the older guys took him aside and said, "Look, you can't keep talking about that. This is not bad, it's bad stuff." That just made him brag all the more. So one day, as they were eating lunch, the older guy came up to him and said, "Look, I've had it with your bragging." He said, You're not that great. And the guy said, "Name anything." He said, "I can do anything you can do and do it better." He said, No. He said, I can do something you can't do." The guy said, "Really? What's that?" He said, "See that wheelbarrow over there? I can put something in that wheelbarrow and carry it all the way down to the work shed that you can't bring back." The guy says, "Oh, nothing to this." He said, "You're on. It's a bet." The guy says, "Okay." He goes and gets a wheelbarrow, brings it out in front of the whole crew and said, "Hop in." Something he couldn't bring back. You know, sometimes it's better to be old and wise than to be young and strong. Sometimes it's better to understand all that's going on rather than just go bulldozing through it. We work, we earn money, maintain our families. And on Labor Day, I thought, okay, need a sermon about laboring. What is it we labor for? What is it that makes us want to get up and go to work? So I got thinking about that. And I decided that if you're going to talk about labor, start with Jeremiah. Because Jeremiah has this curious word. And keep in mind, these are people who are now in exile, and the prophet is speaking to people who used to have their own homes, and used to have their own businesses, and used to have everything pretty well off, and now they've been conquered and hauled off into servitude in Babylon. And you would think that they would be pretty upset about this. But Jeremiah says this. Read with me. "Build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Take wives and have sons and daughters. But seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf. For in its welfare you will find your welfare." Whoa. Pray for the city that I'm enslaved in. Pray for its welfare, and I'll find my welfare. Now that's a bold statement. What is it you labor for? Well, whenever we talk about motivating, we think about what is it that we need in life. You know, my mind continually goes back to that psychology class I had in college 412 years ago. And I think about this. Everybody know what this is? Anybody? Does everybody know what this is? Raise your hand if you know what this is. Okay, this is what they taught us. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay? And I apologize at the first one because of the misspelling in the first, in the top pyramid there, but then somebody came up to me and said, obviously whoever created that pyramid is English. Since they spell it with an S and not a Z. So it actually is spelled correctly, don't correct me. And I didn't make it anyway, I just searched all over the internet until I could find a simple one. Actually, if you go on the internet, you'll find this pyramid done about 413 times, and most of them have got all kinds of verbiage inside so that you can't possibly read it if you put it on a screen. This one was pretty good because it only has one word in each box. But it talks about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, the curious thing about Maslow's hierarchy of needs is that when he wrote the article originally in 1943, it wasn't about a hierarchy of needs. The title of the article was A Theory of Human Motivation. What motivates you? What drives you to do what you do? And out of a theory of motivation, he says there are certain basic needs. And so he comes up with a hierarchy of needs. And those 5 needs seem to be pretty essential. At the bottom, your physiological needs, those things that provide sustenance. Food, water, shelter, clothing, sleeping. Nope, that's not on the basic sustenance level. Curiously, Maslow also adds sex at this level. Those things that you need to survive physically. Your physical body cannot survive without these needs. Safety needs, well, another way to call it is security. What does it take for you to feel secure in yourself? Okay? So that you're not worried every day about surviving. Okay? That you feel safe, that you're not terrorized, that you have some sense of security about your job, some sense of security about your place in the world, that you're safe and secure. So your needs are met, and you're secure in those needs. Those are the first 2 levels. The third level is social. Well, okay, the first 2, fundamental needs, sustenance and safety. Then the third level is social, and the fourth level he calls esteem. But really, social is your connection to others. So what is it that connects you to other people? Relationships, love, belonging, family. Those are things that connect us to other people. We need those. And the fourth level, esteem, well, that just affirms your being. There's something that you do that other people recognize and say, you did a good job. So you get affirmed for what you've done. That's a basic need, to be affirmed. Okay, so those are the first 4. And then Maslow says the top, the ultimate thing, self-actualization. Say that with me. Self-actualization. Sounds empowering just saying it, doesn't it? It's like, wow, I could be self-actualized. What does that mean? I have no idea what that means. It's a bizarre thing. Self-actualizing. So they asked Maslow about this later on. What does it really mean? And he said, what a man can be, he must be. That's helpful. What he means is that everybody has certain gifts and certain passions in their life. So if your gift and your passions are to be a painter, then when you achieve being the best painter you can possibly be, then you're self-actualized. Okay? If you're a carpenter and you develop your skills to the point that you're the best carpenter you can possibly be, then you're self-actualized, okay? So it requires that you kind of understand yourself a little bit. You understand your gifts, your passions, what drives you, and what it is you really want to be best at in the world. And that when you achieve that, then that's self-actualization, and you've arrived. Okay, and you can just sit back because that's all there is to life. Now, Maslow also said that these are things that you have to go through in order, that you have to fully embrace each one before you can go to the next level. So it's kind of like it's not only a pyramid, it's a ladder. But when he did that, over the next 20 years, psychologists just picked that to shreds. They said, wait a minute, why isn't sex up under the connecting and relational part? Why is it down with basic human needs? And what of other things like art and aesthetic things? And they begin to really kind of take it apart and understand that actually it's not a ladder, it's more like a shopping cart. You can take which ones you want at any given time. And if you have some of them removed from you, you'll feel the loss, okay? But that doesn't mean that you lose all of them. You don't have to lose them in order. So actually, Maslow listened to all of this, and keep in mind, he wrote this in 1943, and then he got old. And in 1970, he published another book, and then he died before it was published. And people forget about the next book. And in the next book, he talks about what is there more than the first 5. And he came up with a new pinnacle. Above self-actualization, there's one more thing. And he said, transcendence. Caring for others beyond just caring for self is the pinnacle of self-needs. Wait a minute. My self-need hinges on my giving to others? Yes. If all that you do in life is to fulfill your own needs, if all you're thinking about is, well, I really, really want that new car, I really, really want that new blouse, I really, really want those new pants, I could look cool, I could be cool, others would think highly of me if I, and I got this stuff, ain't gonna cut it. That's a delusion. But getting to the point in your life where you realize that your gifts are not just yours to keep, but your gifts are meant to be shared and better the lives of somebody else so that you care about the needs of another person. That's the height of human need. Which is what Jeremiah is saying, isn't it? Even though you're enslaved in another city, don't be bitter and don't worry only about yourself. Care for the welfare of others, and you will find your own welfare fulfilled. That's what Jesus told us to do, didn't he? Love one another as I have loved you. Now, during September, we're going to be talking about our mission. Next week for homecoming, we're going to be listening to the Long Range Planning Committee talk about our new mission as a whole church. We're going to be talking about the missions that we go through, but we're also going to be talking about how do you, as the lay people of the church, find your mission and your fulfillment in life. Well, that's because that's what's most fulfilling. So we want to help you Find those places where your life makes a difference in the world, because that's going to be the most fulfilling thing for you. So as you prepare to come forward for Holy Communion, I want you to be thinking about this. And I want you to be praying as you come forward to receive these elements. Lord, help me not only to feel the need for these elements and your being, but Lord, help me to find that place in the world where I can serve you best, where I can use my skills and my abilities to change the world and share your love. Would you be in prayer that way? And would the servers please join me at the table?